Okay, sorry, I'm just getting all my like screens and stuff settled so that I can see everyone and see the chat. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I hope you have been having a good morning, afternoon, whatever time it is for you so far. My name is Isabella Sebastiani, and I have a little presentation today on empowered teaching using AI and OER to transform specifically early childhood education, because that is my current specialty. This picture here was generated by AI. I love how they cut off empowered. And I wanted to kind of keep that there to show that AI still makes mistakes and we should all be kind of aware of error that occurs both in AI and humans as well. So we have our agenda. We'll have a quick little check-in. I do this with my learners as well. You'll see it on the next page. I'll do just a really quick brief about me so you kind of know who's talking right now. We'll look at empowerment and education of AI and OER. We'll look at OER in action and AI in action. Some ethics and implications. I know that in the keynote, some people were discussing the environmental and sustainability impacts of AI, which I have a brief overview on, and just things to be mindful of while we are navigating this AI boom, or like gold rush, if one could say, in this AI environment, and then a quick little reflection. All right. So we'll do our check-in in the chat if you don't mind kind of putting in how you're feeling today on a scale of 1 to 9. I can't find my chat right now, so give me a second to pull that up. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of 3s, a 7. Not the screaming cat. Let's see, 3s, 4s. So we got some side eyes. We've got some kind of like murphy looking feelings. 9, just okay. We are 5, 7. Okay, we're a little all over the place. I'd say I'm about a 4 as well. Thank you for checking in with yourself and kind of how you're doing today. Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Just a fun little way to connect. Okie dokie. So I said it before, I'll say it again. My name is Isabella Sebastiani. I'm a current early childhood educator / faculty at Bates Technical College. I position myself as an advocate for equitable and accessible learning. I followed the good old California to Washington pipeline. So I originally hail from California and then moved to Washington in 2023. And I've been in higher ed up here ever since. I enjoy hiking, climbing, swimming, surfing, baking, and sleeping. And I am not an expert by any means on AI or OER. I'm just here to kind of share my experiences and continue the conversations that we've been having since this has grown extremely rapidly, especially AI. Good morning, Kiana. If you all want to put your names and where you're from as well as your kind of program. Go for it. So you can hopefully make some connections in here as well. So kind of a preface before we truly begin. I view education as empowerment. I'm here to share what I've learned, what I've tested, what I've adapted, what I'm doing now, and I'm sure that will continue to change as we learn more. I mentioned that I'm not an expert. I'm still learning, so I would appreciate your insights as well. If you ever want to say anything, add anything, raise your hand, put it in the chat. I do want this to be an open, collaborative conversation among all of us, and I know that we all bring our unique experiences to the table here today. That being said, OER stands for Open Educational Resource. They're free, adaptable, and accessible education materials. A lot of the times when we think of, or at least when I think of OER, I think of textbooks. So free, adaptable, and accessible textbooks. And then AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's a tool, not a replacement, used to enhance, not diminish, human creativity and, in our case, teaching. And then just a surprise, I found out yesterday that OpenAI's GPT-5 is out. So I don't know what makes it better than the 4, but we're going to find out eventually. So if you want to look into that, go for it. Okay, we're going to start off with a word cloud. Joy, it's a QR code. I'll also put the link in the chat. And I invite you to put in 1, 2, 3 words that come to mind when you think of AI and OER in teaching. I will add that link, and you can also scan the QR code, and that should take you to this page. Okay, there is the participation link. It is in the chat. Let me know if this doesn't work. It's my first time using Menti. So we'll see. Oh, I'm seeing words appear. Oh, this is fun. Okay. So we have things like overwhelming, equity, fear, opportunity, ethics, change, collaboration. Ooh, free, creative, new, fresh. I like that, Glenda. Bewildering, skeptical, okay. Free, new, change. Okay, it looks like we're saying equity, change, and overwhelming a lot. The words get bigger the more that they're said. Creative. Actually, I realized that I'm not. Yeah, can you share the results? I was just about to say, I realized that I'm not sharing the results, and that might be fun to see. Let's go here. Okay, so these are the results thus far. The more you write, the more that these results change. But here we have accessibility, bewildering, collaboration, access, exciting, skeptical on the eye, ethics, equity, new, exploring, fear and free, change, creative, adaptability, opportunity, overwhelming, ethical questions, fresh, engaging. So I'm seeing a lot of skeptic. We've added words. I don't know which words we've added. I'm seeing a lot of kind of skepticism, pardon me if I'm not saying that correctly, as well as a lot of opportunity, as is human nature, right? When things are new, this is how we kind of reacted with the calculator and things like that. And at least in my eyes, we should be skeptical, right? We should be questioning and curious and critically thinking about this, as well as looking for opportunities in ways that this can benefit our future generations, ourselves, and make connections with learners even stronger. All right, anybody want to share why they wrote their word or anything like that?
I'll share why I wrote access, um, because I think it's an opportunity to, combining AI and OER, we can provide, we can remove things like economic barriers to education.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing. All right. So I'm going to boogie on to OER in action. This is how I've utilized OERs thus far. In our early childhood education program here at Bates, we have adapted and utilized mostly OER textbooks for our 2-year program, which saves on average about $718 for students during their 2 years here, which ends up being like, that's a lot of savings for learners. We have also, or I, along with Erin Vasishta, who's actually here right now, we adapted an OER ECE textbook to Washington State standards. So this textbook was written for California standards, and we took it and adapted it to Washington State standards. And now we're looking at finding ways to translate it into Spanish with the help of AI, as well as people who are proficient in the Spanish language. I've used OER for multilingual accessibility with books that are already translated in different languages, which I think is a phenomenal use of OER, because then you're able to teach in different languages in which learners learn best from, which is really cool. Screen reader compatibility, so that accessibility piece, at least in the state of Washington, we're having a huge push on accessibility, and by 2026, things need to be a certain amount of accessible. And then I have found OER textbooks to be really helpful with that because of its screen reader compatibility. Also dynamic content creation. So kind of like I said, you can adapt OERs if wanted. In the keynote, we saw that they had used 11, oh, I wrote it down, 11 labs IO to create audios of the OER textbook in different like fairy tale tones and documentary tones and things like that, which I thought was really, really cool. And I would like to start implementing. You can also make it individualized for you, something that I've used for, oops, that was supposed to be in AI. Oh, well, never mind. Okay, so how do you use OER in your classrooms? I put the question in the chat. How do you use OER in your classrooms or with learners? We have OER textbooks. OER textbooks, Canvas course shells, assignments. Does YouTube count as OER? I would say no, but again, I'm not an expert and I actually don't know the answer to that. Jeffrey, do you know?
Yeah, there is YouTube content that is OER because the creators of it will put a CC license on it, Creative Commons license.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's um, if there's no license on it that gives you those ability to remix or repurpose, then it's probably not OER.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Cool. And then yeah, I didn't mention this. Aaron did mention this. Canvas course shells. There's that Canvas Commons, I think it's called, on Canvas where you can access courses that other instructors and subject matter experts have posted, and you can adapt them and use them and learn from them. And they can be really helpful, especially when you're just starting out in the field or would like to update information and don't really know where to start because there's so much information out there. Yeah, Canvas Commons. I haven't found anything for pharmacy tech classes yet. Ooh. So just a food for thought. If you haven't found anything for your field yet, would you consider creating something for your field that you can then utilize and publish for other instructors to utilize as well? Possibly. Just again, food for thought. I know it's a lot of work. If you work at a college, your librarians can help you typically. Sorry, I get a pop-up every 4 hours updates, and I have to get rid of the pop-up. Okay, so then moving on to AI in action. So ways that items that are cell phone friendly. Oh, for OER, yes. So AI in action. Ways that I've utilized AI are in my discussion boards. Students come from multiple languages, cultures, backgrounds, and especially with discussions, I want them to be able to discuss their ideas in the language that works best for them, in their language that they can think best and express their ideas best. AI has pretty good translation ability. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So I encourage students to post discussions in the language of their choice. And then after that, I myself can translate what they have said and then go on from there. So this is breaking down barriers for students. Let's see, I've also used it to develop case studies, which we saw in this slide. This is a case study that I developed, or that AI helped me develop for my exceptional child course, which this is Alex. It's a 4-year-old preschooler diagnosed with sensory processing disorder and a mild physical disability that affects her fine motor skills. Alex struggles with sensory overload in loud and busy environments and has difficulty with tasks that require precise hand movements, such as drawing and writing. Despite these challenges, Alex is curious and enthusiastic learner who enjoys exploring new activities and interacting with peers. So in this discussion example, this is what students see, and then their task is to create an activity and an environment that Alex would thrive in, and then connect that to how that would also help all the learners in the classroom. And AI helped me create that case study. It's also great for rubrics. Rubrics can be very time consuming. And this also helps with, at least in my case, I may have more of like a focal vision point or vision for rubrics, and this helps get that perceptual vision for the rubric as well, because I may not be thinking of everything, where AI can help fill in those gaps that I'm not necessarily thinking about. for rubrics specifically, as well as ensure that the language is accessible, that it is student-centered, and that it covers the competencies that we're trying to achieve. It helps reframe stuck areas. So I don't know if you've ever received a Canvas inbox message or an email saying like, hey, I don't understand these directions, blah, 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 blah. And then you try to rephrase it and they're still not understanding it. And they're like, I don't know how to rephrase this anymore. So then you can either ask someone, or in my case, I've utilized AI to help reframe instructions, reword instructions in a way that hopefully that student would understand better. And it has really helped and at least worked in my case. Another way for AI that I've utilized AI is to enhance accessibility. There is the Arizona State University Image Accessibility Generator. I'm going to open that up so you can see how that works. And I need to switch my screen. Okay, do you see? Nope, that is not what I wanted. Do you see? The ASU Image Accessibility Generator? Yes or no?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. So basically you drag and drop an image. Let's see what images I have. Okay, great. We're going to do an image of myself. And then create image details. Okay, I can't help with identifying or describing people in images. Fantastic. We will try a different image. I should have saved an image. Let's see if it does this. Here's our Bates logo. Great. Wow, okay. So it created an alt text description for me, created a long description in which you can use for alt text descriptions. If you're ever stuck on a picture or, I mean, alt text descriptions can be time consuming, so this can help with accessibility in your courses. It also transcribed the text for me that was on the picture. Bates Technical College, established 1940. Bates Technical College, established 1940. Great. So yeah, tool, if you didn't know about it, to utilize. Questions about the image accessibility generator or any other AI tools thus far?
I have a comment about that accessibility, the image accessibility generator.
Yeah.
One of the things is writing good good alt text is that's the difficult and time consuming part. And a lot of time you'll see alt text that says the school logo and it goes on, or they'll just mark it as decorative. And if you have a tool that can very quickly write a lot of detailed information, that comes in handy with for somebody who's using a screen reader.
What is the link? Oh, thank you for asking. It is right there. I put it in the chat. So hopefully you can access that. But yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. It is, alt text can definitely be very time consuming and then not always very, what's the word? Descriptive. So this helps with that timeliness and description. Obviously, read through it, make sure that it makes sense and is accurate. I've found that to help a lot. And then AI actually in the classroom, I want my learners to feel competent with the tools of now. The tool of now, part of that encompasses artificial intelligence, generative AI. So I want my learners to know how to use this and how to use this ethically. So it is incorporated in my courses. There are assignments in which learners utilize AI and then critique it. So we're still getting that critical processing that is a necessary skill to have in the workforce. Something a student utilized AI for literally last week, and I actually was crying while I was reading this because it was so good. It was a storybook for one of my social emotional classes, and students were invited to create a storybook that related to attachment and temperament and just caregiving and things like that. They could write the storybook with like drawings, they could pull pictures, like stock images, whatever they wanted to do. This student wrote the story and then put it through AI generation, image generation, and it had the most beautiful illustration accompanied by this very heartfelt story that happened between her and her own son about like experiencing the loss of a pet and describing that loss to a child through the connection of that like mom and son relationship. It was a beautiful story. It hit the mark really, really well. And AI just completely enhanced it through the illustrations that it had created. I wish I could show you. I was not given permission to show you. I'm sorry. But yeah, just an example. Other ways that I encourage learners to utilize AI is in lesson plans. Lesson plans can be very time consuming. And it's a great kind of start to learning how to use AI is say, hey, create a lesson plan for this specific area of development for this age group. And then I'll have learners look at that lesson plan and critique it. What if you had a child with sensory processing disorder? What if you had a child with blah, blah, blah? Would this fit for them? How can you adapt it to make it fit for all of the children that you'll experience? So that's kind of how I utilize AI in my classroom and how I encourage learners to utilize AI. Does anyone use AI in their classrooms or have any assignments they kind of want to share that they encourage AI usage? I was talking with a faculty member from different school, but also early childhood. And in her language and literacy classes, she has learners develop storybooks and has adapted that to utilize illustrations from AI for those storybooks, and then taken those storybooks and turn them into an OER. And all of the like language and literacy course for that quarter, all those storybooks get put into an OER and then are published. So they're technically like published stories that learners can then print out and share with their families. And it was a really cool way, I thought, to utilize AI and OER in a language and literacy course. Erin said, I don't have assignments for students to use AI. I use AI to create interactive games for content that can otherwise be really dry. Health and safety in the wax. AI is great for health and safety and nutrition. Not saying that it's not a fascinating course, it is, but a lot of it is that kind of like rote memorization of the wax and health protocols and procedures. So then utilizing AI to find a creative way to interact with learners. And if you have creative ways to interact with learners in person, but you're not sure how to translate that to online, AI can be really great to say, hey, this is my idea for in-person learners. How can I translate this to an online learning environment? And again, just idea generation like that. Okay, So we're gonna boogie on to I use AI, but we don't want our students to use it at this time. I mean, fair, but also it is something that students in the workforce eventually, if not already, they're going to be looking for competencies in a multitude of areas, including subject matter competency and competency in current technologies. Which is why at least I think it's important to empower students to know how to utilize AI in an ethical way, and not be afraid of it. At the ATL conference, the Assessment, Teaching, and Learning Conference earlier this year, one of the keynote experiences, not a speaker, was a panel of learners, and they were sharing their experiences with AI, and some of them were talking about how afraid they were of it because they didn't want to be caught, or they didn't want their words to be caught as cheating, even if it was their words and not AI. And there was a lot of confusion and fear behind it for some learners. So I want to make sure that all learners have a basis of understanding, because education is empowerment. So we educate our learners on, or at least I do, on AI, so that they can be empowered and utilize it in a way that makes sense for them and is ethical. Okay, so moving on to go-tos. I have a couple go-tos, and if you want to share what yours are, but I have to move this. Okay. So you should be able to see that in the QR code. I think my go-to OER websites currently are like Pressbooks of Washington, which is Washington specific Pressbooks, LibreText, OER Commons, and then some of my go-to AI tools are Magic School AI, and ChatGPT, Copilot. Canva has now integrated AI, and you can get a free Canva account with your educator email. And their AI integrations are really fun to play with and utilize for different templates. And if you have to create a brochure or something and you're not sure how you want to create it, putting in some information in Canva, and it'll be like, oh, what about this idea? It's really fun. Let's see, suggestions for ESL students with limited tech and or computer knowledge. Example, Learning Chocolate. Oh, Karen, do you mind sharing more about Learning Chocolate? That's a go-to AI tool, I assume?
Good morning. No,
Good morning.
morning. It is not AI tool yet. It's a website that students can use from their phone. I've been sending them links to specific topics such as body parts. They can listen to the audio. There's a wording part where they can type in the words, or they can drag and drop words into the correct locations. They can check their answers, and they can do this from their phone as well.
Oh, awesome. That
And
is,
I was looking for something like this in OER that's really straight and simple for the students to use that do not have access or knowledge to computers or laptops.
yeah.
And these are sometimes adults, and primarily ESL.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That sounds like an amazing resource. I'm typing it into the Menti right now so that everybody can see it too. Erin, you said Genially. Is what you use for interactive games. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's similar to Kahoot, but I can never get Kahoot to work properly for me. So that's why I go to Genially, however I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, But they have different formats. You can do it as like an interactive quiz. You can do it as like an escape room. They have lots of different templates and formats that you can use. And students, it's they f- they find it very entertaining, and it's much more fun to go through something like that versus having to go through like a traditional quiz to look up certain wax or things like that. Specifically with the wax because it's so dry.
And for those of you who don't know what the WACs are, they're the Washington Administrative Code, and then in early learning, there are licensing. So if you're out of state, it's essentially licensing for early learning centers. Oh, thank you, Karen, for sharing that link. Glenda uses WordWall. What, Glenda, do you mind sharing what WordWall is?
WordWall is it's a computer game and you can just put in your vocabulary and it has it'll pronounce the word for you, and you can put an image and audio with it, and then it generates all these different games for you. Uh, I have the paid version, which is about $13 a month, and it has maybe about 50, 60 different things you can do with it. I find it easier than the chocolate learning for students to use. So what I do is I make a handout for them, and I'll put I'll put the link to the actual word wall that I created, and then it also creates a QR code so students can either use their phones and go right to it, or they can type in the URL and go to it. And they don't need very many computer skills. All they need to know how to do is maybe drag and drop and how to type a little bit, but it makes it real easy for people that are just learning to use the computer. And then I've also used Quizlet, which is a lot more sophisticated than the word wall. There's AI built into it and a tutoring in it, but I've had trouble getting it to work for me, and I haven't spent enough time with it. But Quizlet's awfully good too. And a lot of schools have subscriptions to Quizlet. WordWall has like a
Yeah,
little
oh, awesome.
like a multiple choice. It has, you can take and scramble the sentence, like you can write. I use it for ELA. I use it for very beginning adult learners, English as ESL. And so if you have a sentence like, how are you? You can type that in and then it'll scramble it, and then the students have to drag it and put it in the right order. So it's just kind of a lot of repetition with the words. And so that's very helpful for them.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And then you said it was easier for your students, at least, than learning chocolate was.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, I'll have to check these out.
Just because they go directly to the item that I want them to.
Mhm.
Now, also you can keep scores on it. I mean, I have I can watch and see who has completed the exercises and who haven't and stuff, but
Yes.
that's with the paid version.
Is WordWall free?
Yes, it has like maybe 7 or 8 different games on there. So you take one list and it generates different activities with the list.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing.
It's worth checking out.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I'm like learning all these new tools. I'm excited to check them out. Let's
Hundreds
see.
of
And then we have Conmingo AI. Who's used Conmingo before?
I put that one in there. One of the things that's been interesting for our faculty is that it's integrated in the Washington State instance of Canvas. So it's like having a Magic AI account um, with our Magic School AI, I think it's called. But it's like those paid tools, except the Khan Academy had put them out for free. So you have like rubric generators, assignment generators. It will take text, and if you say I would like this at this 12th grade text at the 8th grade reading level, it'll rewrite it, things like that. I noticed that Glenda mentioned H5P integrated into Canvas. That's been a real interesting journey too. H5P is interactive tools, and there are school districts and universities that are creating libraries of openly licensed interactive content in H5P that you can embed in a open textbook or into a Canvas course.
Can I say something else how I'm using the H5P? I use an open source OER called Putting English to Work, and it's got videos, and then it's got handouts that go with it, worksheets that go with it. And so I took in the H5P, you get it working and you activate it in your Canvas shell, and then all you do is you import content, you start new content, and you can import either text in like a PDF or a Word file, although a Word file works better, or you can take a link to a YouTube video. And once you have that, I've been doing this with YouTube videos, and I can generate a transcript with it, an interactive book with it, an interactive video so that the video goes along and then it will stop periodically and ask a student a question. You can do drag and drop activities. You can do a glossary. You can do flashcards, all within Canvas. And Renton Technical College has that subscription. And I'm not sure if other colleges do, but it is definitely worth checking out and having somebody that's using it on your campus to show you how to use it. I'm just amazed. And the transcript that goes with the videos is really nice, because then you can take the AI and you can translate the transcript that you have into different languages, or else you can make a vocabulary list from that transcript, and you can use AI to create a vocabulary list from that. It's just, it's almost too complicated sometimes, or you just kind of go down rabbit holes. I do anyway.
Wow. Oh my gosh. H5P sounds awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, definitely do.
Cool. Are there any other tools that you all have utilized that you want to share? All right, we'll go ahead and boogie along. So thank you for sharing those tools and your experiences with those. I'm personally really excited to continue checking those out. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I talked a little bit about teaching learners and students how to ethically use AI. So what I explicitly teach students is when AI can be helpful, when AI should not be used, and how to fact check and revise AI content, because AI is not always accurate, valid, and reliable. So we really focus on more of brainstorming activities and translations. And then when we're doing reflections and writing in more of an authentic voice, I really emphasize that I want to hear your own perspectives. I want to hear your own journeys and experiences, not from the voice of AI. And then I'll purposefully send out like a lesson plan or something that may not be developmentally appropriate or something like that. And then I'll have learners fact check it and tell me what they see that may be incorrect with that, so that they have practice in analyzing and critically thinking about different types of lesson plans and things that may not be developmentally appropriate, so that they can hopefully utilize that skill while also utilizing AI further down the line. I've talked about the lesson plan. Anybody have, like, anybody teach students how to use AI and they want to share some tips and tricks that they've done?
One time I had a student attempt to use AI for a problem that AI was really bad at using. And so we went back and forth for quite a while trying to prompt engineer to teach it how to do the problem correctly that it did not know how to do. It's not a formal method of teaching that I've used, but I encourage students who are curious to try out using AI for advanced problems.
Oh, interesting. Yes, yeah, I think that encouragement and that just that commitment to remaining curious can really go a long way with new technologies like AI and other newer technologies that are going to come along in their lifetime, in our lifetime and beyond. Let's see, Sally in the chat said, I didn't realize the session was going on. Will the presentation be available later? Kristen said all sessions are recorded and will be up in the Zoom event to watch. Cool. And then later on the Clover Park Technical College LibGuide. Sweet. Okay. So I mentioned this a little earlier. I do think it's very, very important to note that AI has these bright and shiny and amazing ideas and integrations with videos and being able to read stories in a fairy tale tone and a documentary tone and so on and so on. However, there are environmental impacts of AI that I think we should all be aware about, and if we're interested in researching further, go for it. This is very, what's the word? Very baseline, very just skeleton of environmental impacts. So AI does utilize demanding data centers. It's a lot of power, which in our case means a lot of fossil fuels being burned, which is more CO2 in the air. It's been found to run about 7 to 8 more times of energy than a typical computing workload and 5 times more electricity than just a simple web search under each AI prompt and search. I kind of talked about the AI boom is what we're experiencing currently. And it hasn't given researchers the chance or the time to catch up and measure and understand the trade-offs of the benefits of AI with the challenges and consequences of AI, such as environmental impacts. The data centers of AI also run very, very hot and require a lot of water to cool. So just, there are environmental impacts. It's producing more fossil fuels. It is using more water. And yes, there are benefits, but there are also these challenges and detriments to AI that we should be working on figuring out as we cultivate and grow AI further, because it's probably not going to go anywhere for a little bit. Eleanor put a link in the chat. Talking about water. So how AI data centers are draining water from drought-prone areas, such as like Southern California, and further stressing the decline of water that certain areas have. Again, a final note that we teach our students to be responsible citizens and digital citizens, and we should model that as well by expressing all aspects of AI and not just talking about the like great shining good, but also talking and discussing the possible impacts that this could have on our environment, on our future, on sustainability, on, I mean, we've expressed impacts on like use of it ethically, on copyright and like human thought, human creation. So the image is AI generated. It totally is. That's really funny. The image to the article is AI generated, is what Ella was talking about. But that really is, does anyone have anything to add about the environmental impacts or other negative impacts of AI? Oh, Aaron asked, does anyone have resources on the built-in biases of AI? That would be really an interesting rabbit hole to go through, because I'm thinking of biases in AI. It's a learning model, so it used essentially resources, a plethora of resources to be built and currently learn, I guess. So I guess it depends on the resources that it's utilized and would be biased off of those. Jeffrey, do you have any?
Oh yeah. So I'll put some of this stuff up on our LibGuide, but we did a presentation called Mitigating Bias in AI. And it's really interesting that when AI does an output and then you ask it to examine it for bias, it doesn't think, and it doesn't think of its own output as thought. It just thinks of it as another text. But it's actually pretty good at ferreting out the biases in its own output. And so we've developed a series of prompts for people to sort of like in our AI and information literacy module that we're working on with our librarian. But the Clover Park Technical College will have that there. We only have a couple of minutes left before we're moving people on to the next session. So I wanted to particularly thank Isabella for presenting, and I've been, since I've been at Clover Park Technical College, I've been wanting to get some of the really talented people from Bates College over and collaborating, and so I really appreciate you presenting here. If you are, you'll want to start moving to the next session, and that's that link. I just put it in, and it's, hold on. Let me put the link in. There we go. That's the link to our lobby. There we go. Okay, so we still have time for any questions at all? Any last comments? Okay, I share everyone's gratitude.
Great, thank you, everyone. And as you continue on to your next sessions, I encourage you to reflect on something you learned and something you're still curious about. That's all. Thank you, everyone, and see you in other sessions. And if you have questions, feel free to ask away, or comments or concerns or conundrums.